Okay, picking up with slide number 8. Let's talk about popular music chord symbols. So in some kinds of music like jazz and folk and popular music, chords are generally indicated above the melody by standard chord symbols. So for example here, we see on slide number 8 a little melody that goes like, let's see here, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And we see some chords, we see chord symbols that, let's see, we see a capital A above the first measure, and then a capital E, and then a capital A above the third measure, and then a capital E above the fourth measure there. And those capital letters stand for major triads. So, for example, the first one, A, we're going to have an A major triad, which sound like that. And the second one, we have an E major triad, which sound like that. And if we put this together with the melody, we'll get something. Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3. Right? And so my left hand, I'm playing the triads. My right hand, I'm playing the melody. 1, 2, 3, triad E. And then back to A. Then E triad. All right? So that's kind of how that works. Let's talk more about it on the next slide here. Slide number 9. So a major triad in popular music chord symbols is indicated by a capital letter designating its root. So, for example, and we just talked about this with that capital A and capital E, but here are some more. Capital D, of course, would stand for a D major triad, right? D, F sharp, A forms that. Capital F stands for an F major triad. Right? F, A, C. An A major triad, like I was just playing before, consists of the pitches A on the bottom, C sharp, and then E. Right? Okay, a little bit more about this on the next slide, number 10. Okay, a minor triad is indicated by adding a lowercase m to the previous symbol that we were just talking about. So, for example, if we see a capital F followed by a lowercase m, that's going to mean what triad? That's going to mean an F minor triad, right? Like that. If we see a capital A followed by a lowercase m, that's going to mean an A minor triad, right? A, C, E. No sharps or flats in that one. And then if we see, for example, an uppercase C followed by a lowercase m, that means C minor triad, right? And that's going to be what? C, E flat, G. Okay. So let's go to slide number 11 now. Let's practice writing some of these popular music chord symbols above these 8 chords. By the way, these are the same chords that we did, that we labeled either major or minor back on slide number 7. So hopefully you already have the answers for these as far as major and minor. So if you haven't, go back to slide 7, do that, and then come back to slide 11 here. Okay, so here we're just going to add one thing to what you wrote before. So we're going to add the popular music chord symbol here. So the very first one, right, it was already written as major, and we talked about why it's major. And we determined that it's an F major chord. Actually, maybe we didn't determine that, but we will now. So it's an F major triad, because remember the root is what gives the triad its name, right? And in this case, the root, also the lowest tone here in the triad, is F. And so not only is it major, but it's also F major, Okay, so it's an F major triad. The next one, the one directly to the right, we determined back on slide number 7, when we were talking about that it was a minor triad, right? And we determined also that the root is G, and so the full popular music chord name for this triad is G minor, right? Because it's minor, which we determined, and the lowest tone in the triad, aka the root, is the name, so G minor. All right, so you can pause this video, take a moment, go through, and label each of these. Not only if they're major or minor, if you haven't done so already, but label the popular music chord symbol, right? AKA whatever the root is what you'll put here. Okay, moving on here to slide number 12. So here, let's get a little more practice in. Let's spell or write from the lowest note up to the highest note, that is from the root to the third to the fifth, each of the triads that accompany Morning Has Broken, right? So we see here the melody and the chords for Morning Has Broken. Also, if you can't see this that well on this slide, I know it's a little bit small, go to page 171 in your book where you'll be able to see it a little bit better. So first, spell or write these chords. It looks like the first few have been done for us. And by the first few, I mean, if you go to page 171 in your book, I mean, let's see here, 1, 2, and 3, right? We see it's already written in, right? So basically for this assignment, what we want to do is write in, well here, okay, so they wrote in a C major triad, then a D minor triad. They wrote it in G major triad. What's next? F major triad. What do we write here? What are the 3 pitches in the F major triad? Well, I think we did this one back on slide number 7, but we'll do it again. And hopefully this will be clear for you. So let's look at the F major triad here. So what should we write? Well, we know that since we see F, we know that, remember, the root gives it its name, right? So what's the root here? It's F. So the first thing we want to do is write down an F for our root tone here. And then, so you should have something that looks like this, right? F on the bass clef. So then next, what do we want to do? We want to determine what are the other 2 notes in this triad. That is, what's the third and what's the fifth? Well, here's F. What is a third above F? And by the way, we know that this is an F major triad because there's no lowercase m sitting next to it. So we need a major third above F. What is that? Remember, think back to your F major scale. It's F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. But what's the third? It's F, G, A. So the third is A, okay? So we can write that down next, right? So now I've got my F for my root. I've got my A, which is my third. Now I need my fifth. So what's my fifth? Well, one way you can do this is just go think back to your F major scale and go, what's the fifth? So play your F major scale up to the fifth scale degree, right? So go, F is here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's C, so that's my fifth, right? So you can just then write a C. So that would be, oh, and then I have to get the correct rhythm. So make sure I draw my stem and make these a dotted half note. I can make them all a dotted half note here. So I should have something that looks like this. Okay? So after you write in all these chords, go through and play them, right? What's the first one? It's C. What's the next one? It's D minor. And then we have G. So we jump up to here, then F, right? And then back to C, and so on throughout.